Ready for breakfast? Okay, you guys ready? Come here. Kata, sit. Good girl. Draco? Draco, can you sit? Okay, Kata's being good. We'll give her her food. Kata is my good, smart girl. And Draco is a smart boy, but he is a stubborn old man. Aren't you, bud? Good morning, guys. Today is another garden tour, and there's a lot of plants out there, guys. I'm so excited. Okay, you ready to go out, Kata? Here we go. So my 30th birthday is coming up in I think like a week and a half, and before we get into the garden tour, I wanted to ask you guys if you have any good recommendations on what to ask for as far as like little garden stuff, little tools that you found come in handy, things that aren't too expensive. Because it's my 30th, I'm having a big party and people are asking me like, what do I want? And I have a hard time coming up with stuff like that because, you know, I'm very tempted to say, oh, well, you know, I don't need anything. I'm doing fine. But if you guys have any tools that you have, or like garden related things or like plant related things that you just like really love that you think I should check out, let me know, because I would be very interested to see. Surely this is gonna be fine right here. Kata, you keeping watch over the plants? Okay, so if you haven't been here before, welcome. My name is Rachel. I do these garden tours every single week, and in them I try to talk about the good, the bad, the failures, the successes, the things I am trying to change as I go through this gardening journey. And I think that this is really helpful, especially for new gardeners, to just kind of see a garden in action and not necessarily just the highlight reel. I go over little tips in every garden tour. I don't always know what they're going to be beforehand because they just like, I just say the things that I'm thinking. But hopefully you get something out of this, and if you like it, go ahead and click subscribe and come back next Wednesday for another garden tour. So this first row here, we've got lemongrass that was very unhappy to be transplanted, but seems to be perking back up. You can always tell that it's doing all right because the new leaves coming in look super healthy. These older damaged leaves are starting to die off, and because the new leaves look healthy, I'm not worried about it. Over here on this trellis underneath, I have garlic. This is getting close to being done. Maybe not in the next couple of weeks, but definitely near the end of its life cycle. This was planted in November. And then I've got a couple tomatillos around here, and then the rest of this is indeterminate tomatoes. And I feel like these are growing the fastest out of everything in the garden. Every other day I come through here and I've had to prune so much already. I feel like I've taken off like 6 or 7 layers of leaves. And I try and take off the lowest layer if it's like touching the ground right now when they're just in this little stage. And it feels like every time I come through here, I've got more leaves just touching the ground. because these leaves get longer and droop even after I've pruned off the ones that are currently touching. And we've got fruit coming on right here. These are flowers. And I think I need to actually start coming through here and do seed saving, because I do want to save seeds, and I want to have seeds that are true to type. And I always wait to do that until like way too late in the year. And it would be kind of nice if some of my first fruits I could just save the seeds from and be done with it for the year before. I am overwhelmed with everything else that has to get done in the garden during like peak harvest season, for example. So all you do to make sure you're saving seeds that are true to type, I have these like little mesh baggies, like the kind that you would get jewelries or party favors in, and you put that around a flower or a group of flowers, and you wait for that flower to get pollinated. Tomatoes and peppers are self-pollinating flowers, so you don't have to worry about needing a bee to get in there or hand pollinating. And so you just cover the flower, preferably before it opens, so probably this one would be a good candidate. And once it's pollinated, then you can take the baggie off and give it a little twisty tie or something to mark it, and wait for the fruit to grow. And when that fruit is mature, you will know that it was self-pollinated and true to type. Moving on down the row, I do have this little tiny one. I had one die here, and I had this extra in reserve that I just plugged in its place. It's been chewed on a little bit. I'm going to take off these more chewed looking leaves. But so far it seems to be good. This spot is the only one where I had a tomato plant die. And out of all of these, I'd say that's pretty good. Everybody else is looking super healthy. And if we check in on some of the little basils in between, these got eaten really bad when I first put them out. And you can see it's coming back. It's making new leaves. That is a very good sign. You can take a look at this one. This is an Emily basil. You can see how bad the other leaves were. And the new leaves are still getting chomped, but pretty soon here it will start outgrowing whatever is munching on it. And by that I just mean that it will be growing too fast for whatever's munching on it to be able to keep up. Over here we've got calendula sprouts. I'm very excited about this because I have not grown this before. Really interesting to note though, I put in a couple of holy basils. These are Tulsi. And these ones are not getting eaten the way all the other basils are. Really interesting. I wouldn't know why, but they're not. Now check this out. This tomato is already trying to make a friend here at the base. Indeterminate tomatoes, and sometimes determinate tomatoes will do this. They'll put on suckers at the base and it looks like a new plant, but it's not. It's just another one of these little things that has gotten too big. So this second row here, we can see some lettuces here in the front, a few tomatillos. I have started putting out my cages. These are technically tomato cages, but I don't really recommend them for tomatoes unless you're growing determinants. I find they work really nice for peppers, and I'm trying them out for tomatillos. We'll have to see. In here I've got a few flower sprouts coming up. There's Cosmo there, zinnia there. As we go farther down, these are radishes that are going to seed. They're very beautiful, but I've got to be careful because they will take over so fast if I don't keep them clipped back. Like this little section right here will be huge. It will be all of this if I don't just keep clipping branches back, because if you look, this one that's going to flower, it's got this little bunch here, this little bunch here, here. Each one of these bunches is going to be like a huge branch with all of these flowers on it. My onion flowers have also all opened up. The actual flowers themselves, these little baby ones, are just now popping open. They are so pretty. I've got a lot of flowering onions this year because I planted some that had sprouted from my kitchen, and because onions are biennial, meaning they have a 2-year cycle. The second year they will go to seed. Although I have plenty that are first year onions that have also gone to seed, and that's probably because as the spring was coming up we had hot cold, which confuses them a little bit. So we've got a lot of onion flowers and I'm not too mad about it. So as we look at this radish patch, I have also planted, this is a pepper here. this is an eggplant here. These are still kind of small plants. And if all of this was going to stay here, they would definitely get crowded out. But the plan is to get a few pods, a few seeds off of these, and then pull them out. And then that gives these peppers and eggplants plenty of room to go ahead and mature. But for right now, they're small. They don't need that space. And these are happy to exist and make a few seeds for me and be beautiful flowers for the bees in the meantime. All right, and the other side, farther back down to the same row, all of this is potatoes. They are looking great. I'm actually starting to see flower buds on them. So once potatoes flower, they will usually die back, and that is your cue to go ahead and harvest them. So we've got some munchies going on, but nothing too bad. These plants look really healthy. Look at some of these onions though. These are getting big. I'm very excited. Look at that one over there. That one's getting huge. So if you remember last week, I was talking about these lettuces back at the front of the row, not going to seed yet. You can see that they're starting. You see how this is starting to look a little tall instead of being like short and bushy. Same with this one. It's just starting to get a little tall. That is how you know that it is starting to go to seed. So the lifetime of these lettuces is limited. Meanwhile, these ones over here, like, my goodness, that's so tall. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start by looking at the arches in the third row here. So I've got all of these peas coming in. I've got green ones, I've got purple ones. I've been picking them for like stir-fry eating at about this size before the peas inside really develop. And I just picked these yesterday, and I feel like there's already like so many more that I need to pick. But these plants are not long for this world. Pretty soon I should have beans and cucumbers sprouting up along here, and when that happens, these will get torn out. It actually looks like I did have a bean sprout. You see this stick right here? I think that was a bean sprout that got eaten. So that might be what's been happening to my sprouts in this area. So my next plan of action with that would be to resow and oversow. So maybe at least 2 times as many as I think I'm gonna need, maybe more. And if they survive, then I'll just have to thin them out. But maybe I can get a few of them to survive by just having safety in numbers, Back here on the second trellis, it's the same thing. I have noticed one of my sprouts here. This is one that I put here intentionally. The rest of them, I don't know where they are. There's a lot of grass coming up here. But I'll probably have to plant more seeds in this area as well, because there's a good chance that they came up, got eaten, and I just didn't even see them. Back behind trellises is the fava bean and now hot pepper patch. I've got fava beans on the edges here. These have started making beans. I remember telling you guys last week I would have beans, and this went from being this sized, like this, to this sized in 1 week, which is crazy. So maybe by next week I'll be harvesting. They're getting big really fast. And you can see all these little black bits. Those are more flowers that have been pollinated and are about to be beans. So that is very exciting. This whole patch is going to be a pretty big fava bean harvest for me. These volunteer sunflowers are getting huge. And it doesn't look like they're starting to make flowers just yet either. That still looks like more baby leaves in there. So these are going to keep getting taller. And meanwhile, my peppers are still teeny down here. Luckily, they don't need a whole lot of space. This is the fish pepper. This one will be variegated and beautiful. And the rest of these, I don't remember exactly what's what. But they're all alive and growing, albeit a little slowly. And once the fava beans are done in here, then the peppers will have more space. Might actually put a couple more seedlings out once the peppers have, a couple more pepper seedlings out once the fava beans have finished up, just because I have a bunch of extra, and if they don't get given to good homes, I might as well try and throw them in the garden if there ends up being room. Did I tell you guys I had a dream where I was trying to plant things in a garden, and there was like no more room to plant things. And then somebody reminded me that I had like this entire like raised bed section that I hadn't planted yet, and I was like, oh, thank goodness. Okay, this last row with the lettuces, we've still got some onions flowering in here, big old volunteer sunflowers, and a lot of these lettuces probably start pulling out, like this tallest one for sure. And just to give you like a sense of scale, like this comes up to here on me, which is really tall, and it's only just now starting to make little flower buds. Once the lettuces come out, this will be one of the corn sections with beans and squash probably all together in a Three Sisters type method. I'm doing 3 different sections like that, starting them at different times so that the corn doesn't cross-pollinate. I have not grown a lot of corn, and I have not grown with the Three Sisters method, so we'll see how it goes. It'll be my first time, but I'm excited to try this very tried and true method. Past all the lettuce is a bunch of baby peppers. They also have their cages already. I know this looks like way too big of a cage right now, but like, trust me, it will need it. And it makes so much more sense to put it on while it's small, and you don't have to worry about breaking branches trying to fit this thing over it. This Brussels sprout that's gone to seed has been making plenty of seed pods. None of them are quite mature yet. These are maybe the most mature looking ones. They're probably about full size now and just maturing on the inside. This little section of poppies is filling in really nicely. I haven't seen any indication that they're going to flower yet, but they all look pretty healthy, and I'm very excited to see them flower. I've never grown poppies before. I think I might have told you guys this before, but I decided not to transplant out these blueberries. They had fruit on them when I got them, and according to experts online, I am no blueberry expert for sure, they said that transplanting them after they had started fruiting is not really a good idea. Transplanting them while they're dormant is a much better idea. So these are going to be in these pots until fall, I suppose, and then I'll go ahead and get them put into their new homes. This volunteer squash in the path is definitely a vining squash. I can tell that now because it has grown about a foot in the last week. Still no idea what it is. Could be anything. Most likely a pumpkin, since that's usually what I would have seeds dropping of. But I'm very excited to see how this goes. Over here in the raised beds, we've got lots of little flowers. We've got some cilantro flowers that are making coriander seeds. I know I saw some. Here they are. These little green balls are going to become coriander seeds. So that's really great. I've also got over here lavender flowers. I think these are just about at harvest time, so that is really exciting. This is gonna be my first lavender harvest ever, and this plant I think is like at least 2 years old, maybe 3 years old. I started it from seed. It took forever to grow, but it did grow, as you can see, and now I've got all these beautiful flowers. Also, speaking of flowers, the sage has started to flower. It's got these purple flowers. You can see this one has dropped already, and once that flower drops, this is going to start forming into a little seed pod. Kate, we need to get you out of here. Yeah, here we go. Go play with the plant that I actually planted for you. She's sitting on top of the catnip right now. In here we've got carrots. They're still looking pretty alright. And this licorice mint is getting so big so fast. Hey, don't rub on that too much. This is my little fig stick. I transplanted it into a slightly bigger pot. Why are you crying? I'm crying because you can't get your way. Anyways, this is growing really fast, really tall, really fast. And the mint, you can see it's starting to floof out. It is getting also like, it's maybe double in size since last week. This is going to be a huge plant. And now I think it'll make sense why these pots that I put them in are so big. You're doing your best to kill that plant, aren't you? I don't think you're gonna succeed, darling. Catnip's pretty hardy. Okay, so if we look at this raised bed, I've got still chamomile here. Oh, you've just got to be in everything. I've got parsley here that's coming back. Kata is currently sitting on the chives. I didn't even touch you. What you doing? Ow. Hey. She is definitely the feisty one of the two. Anyways, Kata is sitting on the chives. I've got this kale right here. And then up top, we've still got nasturtiums. They are struggling to recover from transplant, but I think that they will eventually. And I've got these two lettuces here that are now the only two that haven't gone to seed, I think, in the whole garden, which is wild to me because they also get a ton of sun. Let's see, down here, more nasturtium, Greek oregano, the lemon thyme, and a little bit more parsley that got eaten and is trying its best to regrow. I just noticed I have a field of dandelions right here on the other side of the sidewalk. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, and a little pollinator. How cute. This section of yard that I have right here between my sidewalk and the street is very difficult for me to mow because the hill is so steep. So anytime it gets mowed is the kindness of my neighbors who decide to help me out. Otherwise, I would probably just leave it be and not worry about it because me falling down the hill with a lawnmower is not worth having it mowed, you know? All right, and now we're on to the berry patch, which is where everything is happening right now. I've been coming through and getting so many strawberries, like I think maybe a quarter gallon of strawberries every day, every couple of days, making jam. I am so excited about these. It's like a little treasure hunt every day that I get to come through here and find all these adorable red jewels. Not to mention, we are so close to all of the blackberries being ready. You can see they're starting to go red. They go from green to red and then finally to black when they are ready to harvest. And you can see there's a ton of them. Like, this is prime blackberry jam, blackberry pie. Oh my goodness. Look at all of these red gems. Some of these are kind of small, but a lot of them have been pretty good sized. Look at that. These are just beautiful. I do deal with them being chewed on just a little bit, but I've been picking them ever so slightly underripe, and that seems to be right before anything tries to eat them. And them being underripe doesn't really matter unless I'm using them for fresh eating. Underripe is actually pretty good for jam because I'm trying to do no added pectin in my jam. And so with all the sugar you add to jam, you don't notice that they're a little underripe anyway. Plus, the ones that are underripe are actually even still sweeter underripe than the fully ripe ones from the store. They're just that good, you know? These strawberries are going in my pocket for now. I'm gonna have to come back out here with a bucket and get the rest of them. But raspberries also I've been picking. Not nearly as many. Like these I'm getting like maybe 20 or so a day, but it is steadily picking up. And I've been able to eat them all fresh right now, but looking at these bushes pretty soon, I think I will not be able to keep up, and at that point it'll be time to make jam. Raspberries are my absolute favorite fruit. So eating them all fresh isn't like necessarily a struggle for me. But I do love raspberry jam too, so I do want to have some of that. I do want to point out to you guys that the only branches that are fruiting are these older looking branches. You can see the stems are brown, and they just look a little more raggedy. They're not as like fresh and vibrant as something like this, which still has a green stem. And these are not going to fruit for me right now. It is only the older stems that are fruiting. I would expect these to maybe fruit in the fall, I'm not sure if they'll fruit in the fall or if I have to wait all the way till next summer for these to fruit. But all of these are new that came up this year. And like I said, the older ones are the ones that are fruiting. Alrighty guys, well that is all I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed this tour. Hopefully you learned something. And I will see you guys next Wednesday. Until then, happy gardening. I just remembered my coffee, and for those of you wondering, yes, it's cold now.